everyone. So good to see you all. I encourage you, if you're comfortable, turn your cameras on. I sometimes peek and can give like specific instruction to specific people. Otherwise, feel free always to do as much or as little as you want or can. Tonight, we're going to do flow vinyasa with some restorative elements. So grab some props, grab some pillows, bolsters, a strap, a towel can serve as a strap, or a dog leash or a belt. And we'll get started tonight on our backs. So I'm going to offer lying back on your 2 blocks. I'll show you how to set them up. If you have the blocks, you're going to take them on the middle height, separated. And the distance that you separate them is really about the length of your torso. So you want the bottom block to line up kind of where the ribs and shoulder blades are, the bottom of the shoulder blades. And the other block can go just underneath your head. So once you rest back, you can adjust where you land. And what this does is it puts you into some spinal extension through the upper back. And if you don't have the blocks, you can also use pillows or a rolled up blanket. And when you get there, flip the palms to face up, rest them down by your sides. See if you can turn your head straight up to the ceiling. And if you're comfortable, close your eyes. And you can decide whether you want your knees bent or straight. That can be just wherever you're more comfortable or the low back feels like it can relax and release a little bit. And you might try on widening the arms to the sides a bit. So they can ascend to the left and right, almost like a T shape, or even up like a Y. But I encourage you to keep the arms up, or to keep them grounded so that you don't feel like you're holding up the limbs. So go only so high as the back of the hands, the back of the forearms can still be supported by something beneath them. And the first moments of each class are just to observe where you are, how you're entering your yoga practice. Maybe the first time in your day that you get to check in and ask yourself, how is my body? What's the state of my mind? What's the quality of my breath? And you just notice if there's any sense of heaviness or fatigue. Sometimes when it gets a little darker earlier, or it feels like it might rain, there can be the sense that you need an extra cup of coffee just to get through the afternoon. Or you might lean into the sense that it's cozy and it's quite lush outside, and it's a good time to build some heat internally and take a few extra moments to restore tonight. So lean into whatever you're feeling. It's just a chance to observe. And then we'll do some breath work together. So you can always just breathe normally. If your nose is clear, I encourage you to breathe in and out through your nostrils. If you want to do a breath pranayama practice with me, you're going to bring one hand to your chest and one hand to your belly. And we're going to practice something called Viloma breathing. So that's an interrupted breath. We break up the inhales in the style I'll teach you now, and we'll take smooth, steady exhales. So take a full inhale just to feel what's the capacity of your lungs. How much can you fill? You might pause a little at the top to be full, let the breath ripen. And then you exhale that breath all the way out to the bottom. And your next breath in, you're going to fill up just a third of the way and pause. And then you'll fill up 2/3 of the way and pause. And then sip in that last bit of air all the way to the top, pause. Slow, smooth exhale out, either through the nose or mouth. A full, regular breath in. And a clearing exhale to let that one go. Breathe into the belly. Pause. Breathe into the rib cage. Pause. Breathe up into the chest. And then let that breath go and try to make the exhale smooth so all the air doesn't puff out at the beginning. From empty, take a regular breath in and a regular breath out. Breathe in a third of the way. Another sip of air, 2/3. Take a breath into the top. And let that exhale drop from the body, smooth and steady. Let yourself off of your props if you're on the blocks and find a long body stretch. So just send the fingertips up overhead and lengthen your legs down. So if you're comfortable, you're still lying down and perhaps you still feel the imprint of where the blocks were, just ever so subtly lifting your chest up. And then you'll pick up your knees over your hips. And you'll reach the arms to the ceiling and you'll take a breath into your low back. So you try to press the low back down into the floor, keep it there, and tap one foot down to the floor at a time. So just a way to wake up the belly center of the body. And in all of this effort, you're trying to breathe regular breaths, making sure you could still talk, you could still hold a conversation. There's no extra tension building around the throat. If this is easy, you can try tapping both feet down at the same time and both legs lift at the same time. And you would only do that if you can still keep your low back pressing down into the floor beneath you. All right, last 4. See if the legs can stay parallel to the ceiling when you lift the knees over the hips. Last 2. That's it. Good options, everyone. And then give yourself a little squeeze in. You can rock left and right, side to side. You can rock forward and back. We're going to come to a tabletop. If there's any tenderness in the spine, just come through your side and use your hands to help lift you up. When you land, put your knees underneath your hips and your 2 hands underneath your shoulders. And you might just check that you have 90-degree angles between your wrists, the forearm, and the floor. And sometimes an easy way to check that is just put a block right by your forearm and your knee. And once you've set yourself well, press the tops of your feet down like you want to seal your shins and ankles to the floor. Inhale, cow pose, drop the belly, lift both ends of your spine, lengthen your neck up away from the shoulders. And then exhale, cat, press the floor down and away. Let the shoulder blades spread and let your head drop down between your arms. Inhale, cow. Maybe this time you wag your tail a little behind you, shifting weight from left to right knee. And exhale, cat. Round yourself back, looking back at your belly, but lifting your belly away from your eyes. You can take 3 or so more of these cat-cows, and they don't have to be linear. You don't have to go just forward and back. You can also roll out the rib cage and do some circles side to side. You can shift your weight forward and back a little, leaning around the wrists in front of them. You might think of drawing some circles around your wrists. And it's really any movement that wakes up your spine and gets you into weight bearing on the hands. That's it. And then we'll sit down and back into a child's pose. So you'll draw the feet together and widen the knees. And since you have props, or you may have props, I encourage you to prop your seat up. So you might put a pillow underneath your hips as you shift the hips down to the heels. And this is a shape we often start in. You know, yoga classes call out child's pose often, but it's not an easy pose. And it's not one that is necessarily accessible to everybody. So don't be shy about giving yourself a little lift here through the hips to take you out of the bend of your knees. And if your head feels far away from the floor, your forehead's not quite touching down, consider bending the elbows and putting the backs of your hands underneath you. You can also consider a block or a pillow. And in this shape, it's a nice place to breathe right into the low back, the lumbar spine. And every breath in helps you round and fill the lowest part of your spine. All right. You lift yourself back up through your tabletop, coming to your hands and your knees. And then you'll step the hands a little further out in front of you, like maybe 6 inches forward, and drop your hips. So you're now in a plank. Rather than being backed up like a tabletop, you're in a plank. That's it, with your hips in line with your shoulders. I want you to bend the elbows just halfway, and then straighten them out. And as you do this, can you tone the belly up? Bending the elbows halfway. Good, straighten the elbows. Last time, bend halfway, come into the work of your triceps, and then lower to the belly. Good. From the belly, you're gonna reach the 2 forearms out in front of you and prop yourself up onto your elbows. This is called Sphinx pose. You might take a moment to step each foot a little further back behind you. Press the tops of the feet down so much that the knees lift. And then imagine that you can drag your elbows back and pull yourself forward on the mat. You're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to move your body forward, but you find that action of pulling, tugging the chest. So you're not just lifting, but you're lengthening the spine. That's it. You can stay right here, breathing space across each shoulder, or you can tip your right ear to your right shoulder. And you find a stretch on the left side of your neck. And you push down into the floor with your left palm, the pinky, and the thumb side evenly. Notice if the wrists are trying to creep together, can you keep your hands and wrists just as far apart as your elbows? Circle the chin down through the middle and around to the other side. So you land with your left ear tipping down to the left shoulder. Exaggerate the press of the floor away with your right hand, wrist, forearm. Okay, lift your head up through center and find a forearm plank. So you're going to lift up the hips. You might stay on your knees, or you'll step to the back of your mat so that your body is parallel to the floor. And we'll take 5 breaths here. To reclaim your calm breath, even in the moments of effort. Can you send your 2 sitting bones down towards your heels so there's a subtle tucking through the pelvis? That's it. Last inhale. And exhale. Put your knees down. Lift yourself up to a tabletop. Tuck your toes behind you, downward facing dog. Lift your hips up and back. Stretch the hands forward and away. Stretch your heels towards the floor. And keep a generous bend in the knees so that the hips can continue to lift and you're not rounding the low back. If you bend the knees, you take the tension out of the hamstrings and you can keep the natural curve of your low back as it dives inwards towards the belly. Look forward at your hands and walk to the top of the mat. At the top, you'll find a ragdoll shape. So you'll reach for opposite elbows. You'll bend the knees a lot and just fold in over yourself. Dangle your head, relax the neck. See if you can drop your ears between your arms. That's it. What if I asked you to touch your belly to your thighs? Could you bend the knees so well that you actually come into contact? That's it, Fatima. Really nice. And send your hips up at the same time. Good. One more breath here. Nice, Sarah. You can add those sway side to side, or you can be steady and still. Put your fingertips on the floor. Heel toe the feet together to touch. And stand up one vertebra at a time, stacking the bones of your spine like blocks. When you get to the top, let your hands just stretch down towards the floor. Tadasana. Stand tall, stand well. Feel your 2 feet press down into the ground and create more space across your shoulders. So you're not only tall, you're really broad. Inhale, Urdhva Hastasana. Reach your 2 hands up. Maybe the 2 hands touch overhead. So bring your palms to touch. And press the 2 hands in towards center, and that will turn on your shoulders. Good. One more big breath in for length. And then make a bracelet around your left wrist. Find a side stretch to the right. Good. And then can you perhaps lean back a little? Tip the left shoulder back and peek up underneath your left bicep. And there's obvious space here on the left side of your waist, but can you create a little more length on the right side as well? Come up through center, switch sides, grab your right wrist, give it a nice tug upwards, and then take all of that length to the left. Imagine you want to pull your right hand away from the left hand so the shoulders are turned on and active. And you peek up, you lean back. You step down through both feet. Take a big breath in, come back through center. And then dive forward, fold over the legs. Lead with your sternum and your heart. Relax your head at the bottom. You can always use your 2 blocks underneath your hands. Inhale, find a halfway lift. So the shoulders stretch up in line with the hips. And you make an extra effort to squeeze the shoulder blades behind you. So it's the opposite of how we sit. You have to pull yourself forward, lengthening the tip of the head away from your hips. And then plank pose, step to the back of your mat. You can always drop your knees to the floor like we had them at the beginning of class. That's it. Stay, breathe. I'm going to peek in on you guys. Good. Put your hips down in line with your shoulders. And then see if you can lower to the belly, going slow for 4. For 3, can the belly be the last thing to touch the ground for 2 and 1? Good. At the bottom, stretch your arms out in the shape of a T. So you widen the hands side to side, and you're going to roll over onto your right side. So this is a tricky one. It's a pec stretch, so you should feel it across your bicep and your chest. Right arm is wide, and you roll onto the right side. You might pick up your left foot and step it behind you. I'll show on the other side so you can see well. Check in here. Can you still rest your forehead on the floor? If there's any pain in the shoulder, you're just going to take the arm a little closer down by your body. If you want a bigger stretch, you're gonna reach the arm further up. That's it. So the arm that you're stretching is completely behind you. That's it. You might slide the other hand close by your chest. That's exactly right, Andrea. And then you might press the left hand into the floor to help you intensify the stretch across your right bicep. Good. Roll back to your belly, roll through the center, reach the arms out wide like a T on the floor, and then take yourself up and over to the other side. You might take a step and plant the foot behind you on the floor. Point the knee straight up to the ceiling. And you just take a few breaths right across your chest, your bicep, your armpit area. Again, different levels of intensity. The hand behind you, it can be down by your hip. It can be stretched out like a T shape, or you can wiggle the fingertips up like a Y if you need a little more. All right, roll to the belly. Put the hands underneath your ribs, and you're gonna come up either through a plank on your knees, or tabletop. So straight in the elbows, and then shift back to downward facing dog. Look forward right away, take a breath in, come to the top of the mat, fold. Find a halfway lift, stretch your chest forward. Exhale, fold down over the legs. Inhale, stand up. Your feet can be together or hips distance apart. Find a side stretch to the right. Pull the left wrist forward and away from the body. Come up through the middle. Tip to the left. Big side stretch the other direction. Move through center. And as you exhale out your air, fold over your legs. Halfway lift, long spine. Can you keep the length of your spine as you step back to plank? Lower to your knees or keep them lifted, this time halfway, come down, bend the elbows. Inhale, tabletop or plank. You're going straight back up. Exhale, downward facing dog. Lift the hips. Drop your head. Notice where the ears land. If your ears are above the arms, perhaps you can relax the neck, shake it yes and no. If your head is far below your two arms, press harder to activate the arms and lift a little away from the floor. Good. Can you make the crease in your hips any deeper? Sometimes bending the knees helps to intensify the stretch in the back of the glutes. Pick up your right foot pointed to the sky. Good. Bend the right knee, stack the right hip over the left, and take a big circle like your knee is the tip of a pencil. And you're drawing a wide, big circle on the wall. And then go the other direction. Circle your hip around the other way. Straighten your right knee. Look forward between your two thumbs and then step really long step to the top of the mat. You can use your blocks. That can be a really nice assist to lift you up and off of your thigh. And then put your back knee down. Untuck your toes of the foot behind you and reach up. Good. Let the front knee pull you forward. If there's any pain in your back knee, put a blanket or a towel or roll up your mat underneath that spot. And then put your right hand on your hip. See if you can find a side stretch to the right. So you're bending towards your bent knee. If the floor is close by, you can put the right hand on the floor or a block. Now we'll intensify the side bend. But can you keep your chest open to the ceiling rather than rolling to face down towards the floor? So you gotta lean back. Good. Circle the hands around to frame the right foot and straighten the front knee for a half split shape. So the front knee goes straight and you hinge the hips back over your left knee. And can you continue to pull a little extra length through your spine? That's it. Again, find that action as if you want to drag the two hands back. And with that, you're pulling the chest forward. Good. Bend the front knee, straighten the back knee as you tuck the back toes. And take a big step back to your down dog, with or without a push-up on the way. You can always take an extra push-up, but you can always skip it too. Take up your left foot. Look at your left toe. See that even the pinky toe points down to the floor. Good. Then you bend the left knee, stacking the hips. And can both elbows stay straight as you do this? Circle out your left hip. So move the left knee up, around, to the side, and then switch directions like you're trying to touch every part of the range that exists in your left hip. Straighten your left knee, send the left foot up and back, and then look forward. And you can bend the right knee a little. Be soft in the standing leg as you launch the left foot forward between the two hands. Take as many little steps as you need to get the left ankle right underneath your left knee. And then take a moment and straighten the knee behind you. Use that to pull a little extra weight through your chest. Put the back knee down. Untuck the back toes, press down through both feet to come up, stacking the shoulders over your hips. Notice that with the legs oriented in this way, the trunk wants to turn to the right, and your effort is to face forward, your belly, your shoulders. That means you have to pull the left hip back a little. You have to let the right hip come forward. Hug your belly up away from your thighs. And then find a side bend to the left. So maybe you drop left hand to your left hip. Or maybe you take the left hand lower to the floor or a block or a couch or a drawer. Take one more full breath here. And as you exhale, take the hands around the left foot, on or off the block, straighten the left knee, back your hips up. And then think of a cow pose through your back. Can you still stick your butt out behind you? Pull your chest forward in front of you. So rather than rounding like a cat, you're pulling more length through the spine. You can play with either flexing or pointing your left foot, depending on how much intensity you want for your left hamstring. That's it. And then crawl your fingertips forward, re-bend the front knee, straighten the back leg up and off the floor. Downward facing dog. Take a big step to the back of your mat. And then 3 breaths in your down dog. See if you can make the inhales and the exhales long. See if you can make the spine long. So from the hips to the wrists and the hips to the heels, you're pulling more length with every moment spent here. All right, look forward. Step the right foot between your hands. This time the back knee stays up, but the back heel drops to the floor. Warrior 1. Rise up, reach up. It's still a forward-facing pose. See if the front knee can bend any deeper so the thigh comes parallel to the floor. And the entire back foot is down. So you might have to step your left foot up or a little to the side so that the heel can drop. Take your hands behind you and interlace your 2 palms, your 10 fingers. If this is not accessible, grab a towel, a strap, something between your hands. Even if you can interlace the hands, sometimes it feels nice to use a strap to separate, to give a little space. And then press so much into your back heel that you might feel a little back bend up through your upper back. So you're creating a C curve from your heel through the tip of your head, like a little crescent moon curve through the body. And then take yourself inside the right knee, humble warrior. Lift your hands or your fist or your strap up towards the ceiling. The effort here is to keep the right hip pulling back. Good. Can you touch your inner right knee with your shoulder? Can you drop your head straight down to the floor? All right, release the hands down, straighten the front knee, pyramid pose. I like the props here. I like the blocks and the space they give. But you end up with 2 straight-ish knees. And then if you want to stretch the shoulders more, you'll walk the hands as far away from you as you possibly can. You might tent them on fingertips. Think about putting your heart on your knee rather than your nose touching the knee. The nose stretches and strives for your big toe. Keep lifting the right hip back. That's it. All right, bend the front knee a lot. Put your hands down, pick up your back heel, and find a twist to the right. Now the back heel is high up over your back toes. You lean back a little through your shoulders. Move the skull back. Okay, funky little transition here. Put your left knee down onto the floor and find a modified side plank. So you're gonna move the right leg from bent out in front of you to stretching down the mat. And you're still, during that whole time, using your left palm as your primary base of support. That's it. If this is easy, you can pick up your bottom knee and come to a full plank, maybe with the feet stacked or staggered. One more breath. Downward facing dog. Put your right hand down and simultaneously lift your hips up. Pick up your left leg. Step your left foot all the way through the hands. Put your back heel down. So I just took a generous step forward and a little step to the side. And now my legs are well set. So as I stand up, there's no work to be done. The legs are already in warrior 1. And you have to wrap your right rib cage forward. Pull your left rib cage back so that the belly faces forward. And imagine someone spinning your back inner thigh up, or you might even put your right hand on your inner thigh and spin it to the ceiling. See if that helps you face right on. You have equal weight in your front foot and your back foot. Can your front knee be over your front ankle? Interlace the hands behind you. Maybe it's the opposite way, the opposite thumb on top. Give yourself a little back bend. Can you feel the skin across your chest, across your heart stretch a little as you widen and tip back? And then take this whole shape and fold inside the left leg. At this point, the left knee is still bent. And it's like a little shelf. You can rest your shoulder. You can lean your left shoulder inside the left knee. Keep pressing the right heel down. Look at your back toes. Make sure they're not gripping the floor. And then you'll put your hands or your strap down. Straighten the left knee. And walk the fingertips forward. So you use the arms to lay your trunk and your torso over your front thigh. The knees are straight. And if there is a bend, it's not something I can see. It's something you might be able to feel. That there's a little buoyancy in the knees. They're not locked. All right, re-bend the front knee and pick up your left hand and your back heel. So you twist open to the left. So you turn to face your left inner thigh. And you put your attention on that leg behind you. Can it be strong and lifting away from the floor? And with your entire right palm on the ground, perhaps you can keep your eyes up, which is a big challenge. You'll put the right knee down and you'll pick up the left foot and step it to the back of the mat. You're in a side plank. And you can keep the support of the bottom knee, or you can straighten the bottom leg and find a full plank. The feet might be heel to toe, or you might stack heel over heel. Notice the left hip might want to drop back. You have to pull it forward. You have to tighten the belly in. One more breath. Downward facing dog. Good job holding. Lift the hips up. Drop your head. It might feel nice to have 4 points of contact on the floor. All right, put your knees down. We'll take a child's pose stretch, but I'll offer a tricep stretch. If you have blocks or a towel roll, set it out in front of you and put your elbows on it. And then with your elbows on the blocks, you're gonna sit back with just the tip of your head down on the blocks. You'll bend the elbows and bring your thumbs to the nape of your neck. So I like the blocks on the middle height. And whether you're using blocks or not, see if you can move the elbows close in by your ears. And maybe step each elbow a little further forward so the whole tricep is lengthening, the armpit is lengthening. And it's okay if the flesh of the biceps and the arms closes off your hearing a little bit. You can be quiet in this moment. You can hear maybe more your own breath from the inside than my voice from the outside. All right. One last little bit of standing work before we come all the way down to the floor. You're gonna come to stand. And then you'll face the long edge of your mat. And you'll widen your feet just as wide as your wrists. So stretch the arms left and right and make sure your feet and ankles are under them. And then you'll turn the right leg all the way forward. So the right toes point straight ahead. And you'll swivel your left heel back just an inch or so. So the left heel is the furthest thing behind you. And you stay with your chest facing the long edge of your mat, but you'll take your eyes over your right hand. Bend the right knee for warrior two. Go forward with the front shin. Straighten out the back leg. Look forward. And then interlace your hands behind you. And it's another great place to grab a strap. I'll show you what we'll do with the hands. With or without your strap, you're gonna put both fists on your right hip. So imagine you wanna show me your two hands out in front of the right hip. Good. And then we're gonna take an extended side angle, but with the right elbow inside the right knee. And can you still lean back a little? That's it. And can you nudge the right knee open with your right elbow? And then stand up and take your two arms behind you and then fold all the way forward between the legs. And the strap, the blanket, the space between the hands, it allows us to rinse out the shoulders a little. Like I can draw the arms up further than if the two palms are touching. And if the hands and arms and shoulders are getting tired, just dangle them towards the floor. Maybe rest them on the floor. But we have one more standing side for warrior. So when you're ready, you'll stand back up. You might bend the knees, you might bring the hands to the hips, and you'll swivel the left leg to face the other side of the mat, and the right heel will move back an inch or two. Level off your hips, make sure your left hip is not dropping below your right, and then bend the front knee and look over the front hand. Stand well in both legs. Let the front shin come parallel to the wall you're looking at. Make sure the back wrist is still over your back ankle. Notice if the left hand is stretching up and the right hand is dropping and on the other side of you. Can your arms and hands be level? Can you stay in your effort? That's it. Now interlace the hands behind you. Or use your strap. Take both hands, put them on your left hip. If you don't have a strap, you can just grab your pant leg. See if you can hold the inseam of your right pant leg or your left pant leg. Otherwise, you're gonna drop into extended side angle. The elbow, left elbow, inside of the left knee. That's it. So if you have no props and you're working this at home, you can just rest your left elbow on your knee and still the right hand is striving forward. Maybe you can wiggle the fingertips somewhere near the left hip. That's it. So you work with what you have in any version you try to lean back. Good work. Stand up. Relieve the left leg. Bring the feet to touch. Let's see if we have a moment longer to, yeah, we can do it. We can do one more balancing pose. You're gonna pick your right foot up and find a tree pose. So the right foot can be like a little kickstand on the floor, resting the heel and the arch somewhere by the left ankle. Or you grab the right ankle and put it up by your groin. Avoid the foot right over the knee. So go either above or below. You can always use your hand on a wall. Otherwise, interlace the hands behind you and put them on your right hip. So this should be familiar. We've been working the shoulders like this. Okay, now drop the right hand inside your right knee. And the palm faces open. And the back of the hand, you try to press it into your knee or your thigh. That's it. And even as you reach the arm down, can you not shorten the right side of your waist? So be tall. That's it. One more breath in. Reach both arms up. Good. Can you blink your eyes closed without toppling over? It's really very hard. And then switch sides. Put the right foot down and set your left leg, left foot anywhere along the floor, the calf, or the right inner thigh. Take the hands behind you, put them on your left hip. And instead of nudging your hands into your hip, can you nudge the hips into your fists? So what that does is on the other side, you're activating the outer hip. Stand tall even as you stretch the left arm down. If you can get the left hand by the left knee, press the knee into the hand. So the opposite of our warriors. In warriors, we press the arms back to drive the knees back. Here, press the knee forward to tone the shoulders. Good. Release all of that down. And lower down to the floor on your hands and knees like a tabletop. And then put your forearms on the floor. Try to parallel your forearms like the shape of an 11, or put a block between the hands. Squeeze the block between your thumb and your pointer finger. We're gonna find a few low cat-cows. So just like when you're on your palms, but a little bit smaller, more subtle motions. You have to fight a little harder to find the movements of your spine. As you inhale, you extend the back, lift the hips, lift the sacrum, lift the chin and the chest. As you exhale, drop the head, drop your sitting bones towards the backs of your knees, curl up and in. One more breath. Good. And then we're gonna find puppy pose. So you'll stretch each hand forward and try to put your whole chest, your chin, or your forehead down. So the hips, they stay really high and back over your knees, and the arms, they stretch forward either on thumbs or fingertips. And it's a great place if the floor is far away to put blocks, maybe the long way, underneath your chest and your forehead. And you might adjust the height so that the block underneath your chest is a little taller than the block underneath your forehead. All right. So press up through your tabletop. Unless you want to stay a little longer, you can always stay a little longer. And we're going to set up pigeon pose, but with the block straight across the mat on the lowest height. If you don't have blocks, try a pillow across the mat. If your hips are tighter, on the tighter side, you can do blocks with a pillow. You're going to put the right foot in front of your props. So you're standing with your props right underneath your hips. And then you're going to slowly move the right foot across the mat as you settle the right hip onto your props. The higher, the more support. And the key thing here is that you don't just sit on your right hip, but you actually attempt to press your left thigh bone forward into your props. So I'll change my angle so you can see. I have my two blocks on the floor. I have a cushion over them. And I'm going to set up my pigeon pose with the right shin in front of the props and the left leg straight behind me. So I have a wall behind me. It's not going to straighten out, but you hopefully have some space. And the left hip, I'm trying to press it forward onto my props so that the weight of the body is not only on the right side, but pretty level. And then you can walk the hands forward. And you can support the upper body on another pillow, bolster, cushion. But See if you can get the head not to dangle in space, but actually rest down on something. If this is not for your body, if this does not feel good in your hips, take a figure four, either sitting upright. That's just putting your ankle over your knee. Or lying all the way back with the ankle over the knee. Same muscle, same stretch, different approach. If you're on your back, you'll simply switch sides. If you're in the pigeon, you'll lift up through your arms and you'll switch sides. So you may have to maneuver the right leg over your props. You might have to be on your two knees for a moment, get the left leg forward. And be cautious as you move the left foot across the mat, lowering the outer knee down. And before you rest the trunk down, you take a moment. Can you sit evenly on what's underneath you, whether it's the floor or your blocks or a bolster? Can some of the weight of the body move through the front of the right hip? And then you can choose to either stay lifted or lower yourself down. But when you lower yourself down, relax the head so that the heavy parts of your body, your pelvis and your skull, are supported and you don't have to hold anything up. You can use the hug of gravity to facilitate this shape, the rest that you can take here. And in pigeon, there's no requirement that says the front knee needs to be, or the front shin rather, needs to be parallel to the front edge of the mat. It's something we hear sometimes in yoga, but it's not required. And you can get a wonderful stretch through your left hip, even with the heel in towards your groin. Okay. Don't let me rush you out of this shape, especially if there's any inclination to stay a little longer, you can stay. Otherwise, you'll use the next few breaths to move yourself into your final resting pose. It can be on your back, or a shape I have been really enjoying closing my practice in is being on my belly. And if you choose that one, it can be nice to put pillows underneath the ankles and the feet. Bend the elbows and rest the head on your pile of hands. Otherwise, you go to any shape that feels best to absorb your practice. It can be on your belly or on your back. It can be on your left side or your right side. Or you can rest in a seat, maybe with the eyes closed wherever you are, or the gaze soft and unfocused. And you can either just stay here and ignore my voice moving forward if you're in your zone, if you're in a calm place, enjoying what you're doing. in your own mind and in your own effort to stay present. Or we'll take the same breath we took earlier, except this time we'll do smooth inhales and some short segmented exhales. So start again with a full breath in. And if you're on your belly, you might feel the belly expand on the floor. And then you let that breath out. And this time you inhale all the way to the top and you pause there. You'll breathe out a third, pause. Breathe out another third, pause. And then empty out all the air to the bottom. Hold on empty. Let that tension build a little. And then let the breath all the way up and in. Fill the belly, fill the chest, the lungs, the ribs. Breathe out a third. Breathe out 2/3. Go all the way to empty. Hold at the bottom. And then let yourself sip in another smooth breath of air. Final round, empty a third, empty 2/3, and then empty all the way out. Normal breath in, normal breath out. And if you're ready to move on from your practice, you'll come up to a seat. And you'll sit tall and in a way that doesn't make you feel uptight. You're upright, but without the sense of tension or rigidity. And bring the hands to the center of your chest. Bow the chin down towards your own heart. Honor your practice, your body, your mind for having the discipline, for completing the practice. Thank you each for sharing with me and each other. Go peacefully tonight. Have a good evening.